I killed my mother-in-law with a single whisper into her ear. And the family never saw it coming. Not because I poisoned her coffee or tampered with her brakes. Nah. That would have been too merciful. Too Hollywood. No. I slipped into her skin. Literally. And made her destroy everything she loved from the inside out. And the kicker? They all thought it was me. Claire. The gold-digging outsider they'd iced out for years. Finally snapping under the weight of their bullshit. It started on a Tuesday in late October. The kind of crisp fall day in Greenwich, Connecticut, where the leaves crunch underfoot like brittle dollar bills and the air smells like old money and regret. I'd been married to Ethan Harrington for 3 years. But to his family, I was still the nobody from Queens who'd tricked their golden boy into a shotgun wedding after one too many tequila shots at a Hamptons party. Ethan's folks, Richard and Victoria Harrington, ran Harrington Capital like a goddamn fiefdom, private equity sharks who devoured startups for breakfast and spat out the bones. Victoria was the real viper. All pearl necklaces and Botox smiles. The woman who decided early on that I didn't belong at their Sunday suppers. Family only, she'd say with that iced tea drawl, her eyes sliding over me like I was yesterday's news. The exclusion wasn't just petty, it was surgical. First, it was the dinners, me left twiddling thumbs in our cramped condo while Ethan wolfed down roast beef and whispered boardroom secrets. Then the holidays. Christmas at the estate without an invite. New Year's Eve toasts I watched on Ethan's Insta stories. My face cropped out like a bad Photoshop job. It's tradition, Claire. Ethan would mumble. His tie loosened. Scotch on his breath. Mom's particular. Particular? Yeah. That's code for we hate your guts because you're not one of us. But I played nice. Smiled through the brunches where Victoria accidentally double-booked the table. Baked pies for Thanksgivings, I crashed anyway. Only to get the cold shoulder and a side of passive-aggressive jabs about my city roots. Deep down, I knew it was more than snobbery. There was a secret festering in that family. One they'd buried under layers of NDAs and trust funds. I just didn't know how deep until the night everything shattered. It was the Tuesday after Ethan's 35th birthday bash, a blowout at the club where Victoria footed the bill but made sure I sat at the kids' table with the cousins who reeked of entitlement. I got home late, buzzed on cheap champagne, and found Ethan pacing our living room like a caged wolf. "We need to talk," he said, not meeting my eyes. That's when he dropped the bomb. Divorce papers. Already signed by his lawyer. Reason? Irreconcilable differences. Bullshit. The real reason was scrawled in the fine print. Allegations of embezzlement from Harrington Capital. $2 million. Funneled through dummy accounts I'd supposedly set up during my freelance graphic design gigs. Me? I'd barely balanced our checkbook, let alone cooked the books for a firm that could buy small countries. I laughed at first, hysterical, ugly sobs that echoed off our IKEA walls. This is a joke, right? Your mom's handiwork. Ethan flinched but didn't deny it. Turns out, the Harringtons had been laundering money through shady offshore deals for years, papering over Ethan's coke-fueled fuck-ups and Richard's mistresses with creative accounting. But when the feds started sniffing around after a whistleblower tip, they needed a fall guy. And who better than the outsider wife with no pedigree? No allies? They'd planted the digital trail months ago. Fake emails from my laptop. Transfers timestamped to my IP. Victoria had even coached Ethan on how to play the heartbroken husband in his deposition. Betrayal doesn't hit like a freight train. It seeps in like damp rot, crumbling your foundations inch by inch. I spent that night chain-smoking on the fire escape, staring at the Manhattan skyline twinkling like a taunt. By dawn, I wasn't crying anymore. I was plotting. Revenge isn't a dish. It's a slow poison you brew in the quiet hours when the world's asleep. And mine? It would be biblical. That's when I remembered Marco. I'd met him 6 months back at a dive bar in the village, nursing a gin and tonic after another Harrington snub. He was a ghost in a three-piece suit, ex-CIA Black Ops, now freelancing in the gray market of biotech enhancements. Body mods for the elite, he'd whispered, sliding me a card etched with a single phone number. Want to be someone else? I can make it happen. At the time, I'd laughed it off as drunk talk.
But now?
Now it was my golden ticket. Marco's clinic was a nondescript warehouse in Red Hook, Brooklyn, rusty chain-link fences, the Hudson River lapping like a dirty secret. He didn't blink when I laid out my ask, a full neural swap. Not some cheap facial reconstruction, the real deal. Experimental tech smuggled from a DARPA lab gone rogue. Consciousness transfer, he called it, wiring my brain to a prototype rig that looked like a MRI machine fucked a Tesla coil. The target? Victoria Harrington herself. I'd slip into her body during one of her spa retreats, a biannual pilgrimage to a private clinic in the Berkshires where she got her fillers and detoxed with 4 drips. Marco had a contact on staff, a little bribe, a swapped 4 bag laced with the nanotech serum. And boom, mid-massage, her mind would flicker out, mine flickering in. It's not reversible, Marco warned, his accent thick with old-world gravel. And if it glitches, you're a vegetable in a penthouse. I signed the waiver, anyway. My signature shaky but sure. Cost me everything, our savings. My grandma's heirloom ring pawned for seed money. But what price for payback? The swap happened on a foggy November morning. I drove up to the Berkshires in a rental Prius, heart hammering like a jackrabbit. Victoria's suite was all white marble and essential oils. The kind of luxury that screams fuck you to anyone scraping by. I waited in the shadows, posing as a new technician, clipped hair, fake badge, the works. When they wheeled her in for the deep tissue reset, I palmed the vial into her drip line. 30 minutes later, the machine hummed to life. Waking up in her body was like drowning in silk. Her skin, God. It was flawless, stretched tight over cheekbones I could cut glass with. But the weight of her years, her secrets, pressed down like an anchor. I flexed her manicured fingers, stared into the vanity mirror at those ice-blue eyes that had sized me up and found me wanting. Hello, Victoria, I whispered. My voice, her voice, a husky purr that dripped disdain.
It was me,
Claire, trapped in this porcelain prison. But the memories flickered at the edges, boardroom battles, Ethan's birth, a hidden ledger of sins. The first test was the drive home. Her Tesla purred like a panther, autopilot whisking me through the winding roads lined with skeletal oaks. I cranked the AC, sweating bullets under her cashmere sweater. By the time I pulled into the Harrington estate, that sprawling McMansion with its ivy-choked columns, panic clawed at my throat. But I straightened her spine, slipped on her Louboutins, and strode in like I owned the place. Because for the next window, 72 hours before the serum faded, I did. Richard was in the study, nursing a Macallan, poring over falsified reports. Darling, he drawled without looking up, the Claire situation's contained. Ethan's lawyered up. She'll take the plea. I, Victoria, leaned against the doorframe, crossing her arms just so. And if she doesn't, my words slithered out, laced with her signature venom. He chuckled, oblivious.
She will.
Poor girl's cornered. That night, the family dinner, the one I'd been exiled from for years. The mahogany table gleamed under candlelight, crystal goblets catching the fire from the hearth. Ethan, at the head, looking like a kicked puppy in his Brooks Brothers, Richard carving the prime rib with surgical precision, even the prodigal son, my brother-in-law Trent, flown in from his Silicon Valley startup.
And me?
In Victoria's seat, presiding like a queen. Pass the wine, Mother, Ethan said, his eyes dull.
I poured.
Slow and deliberate, watching the burgundy swirl like blood in water. To family I toasted, clinking glasses. They echoed it mechanically, forks scraping porcelain. That's when I started the unraveling. Subtle at first, a offhand comment about Ethan's late nights at the office, laced with just enough implication to make Richard pause mid-bite. Then, probing Trent about his anonymous investments, her gaze sharpening like a scalpel. By dessert, Victoria's infamous chocolate soufflé, which I botched slightly because fuck her recipes, the tension hummed like a live wire. Claire's been difficult, Ethan ventured, testing waters. I smiled Victoria's smile, all teeth and no warmth. Darling, we've all made mistakes. Remember that little indiscretion with the Cayman accounts? Water under the bridge. The table froze. Richard's fork clattered. Trent choked on his espresso. Ethan's face drained of color. I dipped into her memories just enough to know the indiscretion was their dirty little laundering scheme, the one that had birthed my frame job. The fallout was exquisite. Accusations flew like shrapnel, Richard hissing at Ethan about loose lips, Trent accusing Victoria of senility. I sat back, Victoria's rings glinting as I steepled her fingers, sowing discord with whispers and winks. By midnight, the estate echoed with slammed doors and sobbed apologies. I'd cracked the facade,
But this was just foreplay.
the real revenge, exposing the rot at the core. Day 2 in her skin. I raided her office, a sanctum of walnut paneling and locked file cabinets. Her password? Ethan's birthday.
The sap.
Inside, gigabytes of dirt. Emails plotting my downfall. Forged docs pinning the embezzlement on me while shielding their Ponzi paradise. But deeper, the secret they'd buried like a body in the backyard. 15 years ago, Victoria hadn't just clawed her way to power, she'd orchestrated Richard's first wife's accident, a yacht collision off Nantucket. Ruled negligence, but smelling fishy from the start. Insurance payout? The seed money for Harrington Capital. And the fall guy? A deckhand from Queens, my uncle, Tommy Riley, who'd taken the rap for manslaughter, rotting in prison ever since. They'd silenced him with payoffs to his family. But the guilt? It festered in Victoria's veins like black ink. I nearly retched, her body convulsing with phantom nausea. My uncle, the man who'd bounced me on his knee, taught me to fish off the docks, sacrificed on their altar of ambition. That's when the hate crystallized. No more games. I drafted the anonymous leak. Terabytes to the Wall Street Journal, the DOJ, even a true crime podcast sniffing around cold cases. But I timed it, scheduled drops from her IP, disguised as a whistleblower confessional. Let them think Victoria had snapped, spilling family guts in a midlife meltdown. The climax hit on day 3, the serum's half-life ticking like a bomb. Family brunch in the sunroom. All for civility after last night's blowout. I wore her Chanel suit, pearls choking my throat, and played the penitent matriarch. We need to talk about the past, I said, voice quivering just right. They leaned in, wary. I laid it out, not the full blast. But enough, the yacht.
Tommy,
The blood money. I did it for us, I confessed. Tears, real ones. Mine streaming down her Botox cheeks. But it's eating me alive. Ethan bolted first, retching into the azaleas. Richard roared denials, face purple as a bruise.
Trent,
He just stared, calculating escape routes. Chaos erupted, 911 calls. Lawyers on speed dial. I slipped away during the melee, locking myself in the master bath. The serums itch crawling under her skin like fire ants. The news alerts pinged. Harrington matriarch confesses to cold case murder in apparent breakdown. Stocks tanked. Sirens wailed in the distance. The swap reversed in a Hilton parking lot off I-95. My body slumped in the rental. Marco's extraction team jabbing me back to life. Waking as Claire again, freckles and frizz. Aching joints felt like rebirth in a thrift store dress. I drove south. Radio blasting Springsteen, the king of Jersey wailing about ghosts on the turnpike. By nightfall, I was back in our condo, packing Ethan's shit into hefty bags. The twist came at dawn, as I scrolled the feeds over black coffee.
Victoria,
Catatonic in Bellevue, mumbling about imposters in the walls.
but the leak?
It backfired. Buried in the files I dumped was a countertrail, proof that Uncle Tommy hadn't been innocent. He'd been in on the yacht scam, an insurance fraud gig gone wrong. Victoria's setup to eliminate Richard's first wife and pin it mutual. Tommy took the fall willingly, for a cut that vanished when the family reneged. My blood ran cold. I'd avenged a lie, painted myself the villain in their eyes forever. Ethan showed up at noon, eyes bloodshot, begging. Claire, it was all Mom. You have to believe me. I laughed, handing him his Louis Vuitton wallet. Believe you? Like you believed me when they framed me? He crumpled. But I felt no pity, only the hollow thrill of the unraveling. In the end, the Harrington empire crumbled. Indictments. Asset freezes. Victoria in a padded cell reciting stock tickers.
Ethan?
He vanished to Costa Rica. Last seen hawking timeshares.
Me?
Cleared of the embezzlement when the real ledgers surfaced. But scarred. Untethered. I sold the condo. Moved to a cabin in the Adirondacks. Fishing like Uncle Tommy taught me. Was it justice or just another layer of the con?
Hell if I know.
But every Sunday, I set an extra place at the table for the ghost I became. And sometimes, in the quiet, I wonder if a sliver of her lingers in me still. The cabin smelled like pine sap and fresh starts. But the nightmares? They reeked of Chanel No. 5 and betrayal's sour aftertaste. 3 months post-swap. And I'd traded Greenwich's manicured lawns for this off-grid shack on Saranac Lake, solar panels sputtering against the February chill. A wood stove belching smoke like my unresolved rage. Mornings, I'd chop logs until my palms blistered, pretending each swing buried another Harrington skeleton. Afternoons, I'd trawl the dark web for updates, watching their downfall unfold in pixelated glory. Victoria's confession had lit the fuse. The journal's front page splash, heiress to empire admits role in 2009 yacht mystery, ripped the scab off the cold case. Tommy's name trended on Twitter. Free Uncle Tommy petitions popping up like weeds. The DOJ swooped in, freezing Harrington accounts faster than you can say insider trading. Richard lawyered up with a white shoe firm that bled him dry. But the optics?
Toxic.
Clients bolted, partners whispered about the witch in the family. Ethan, My ex by then, papers finalized in a Reno drive-thru, fled to some beachside bolt hole, posting cryptic sunsets on a burner account. Finding myself, the caption read. Yeah. Finding the bottom of a bottle. More like. But the twist gnawed at me. Those files, Victoria's digital confessional, hadn't just exonerated her, they'd reframed Tommy as a co-conspirator. Forged emails, grainy security footage of him pocketing hush money. Was it true? Had my uncle, the saint who'd smuggled me comics in prison visits, played both sides? I drove to Sing Sing one sleet-lashed afternoon, the visitation room's fluorescent buzz drilling into my skull. Tommy looked smaller, grayer, his once broad shoulders hunched like a question mark. Claire Bear, he rasped, gripping the plexiglass phone. Saw the news. You did good.
Kid.
Stirred the pot.
His eyes,
Same muddy brown as mine, twinkled with something unspoken. I pressed. The yacht. The payout. Victoria's lies. He sighed. Long and ragged. Half-truths. Half the time. The Harringtons promised me a cut, big one, to take the fall. But they stiffed me.
Yeah.
Insurance was clean. The accident was just bad luck. Your ma-in-law? She twisted it. Made me the monster to cover her tracks. Relief flooded me. Sharp as moonshine. Not fully innocent, but not the villain they'd painted. Why didn't you fight it? I whispered. Tommy shrugged. Family?
Claire.
Yours and mine. They had dirt on your folks' debts. Addictions. I ate the lie to keep you all afloat. We talked till the buzzer. Him promising to appeal with the new evidence. Driving back through the thruway's sodium glow, I felt the weight lift. Just a fraction. Revenge wasn't a clean kill, it was this. Picking shrapnel from old wounds. Back home, the isolation crept in. No more city hum. Just loons calling across the lake like lost souls. I'd fire up the laptop, scroll through the Fallout forums, Redditors dissecting the Harrington hex, true crime TikToks recreating the swap in bad CGI. One thread caught my eye, Claire Riley, victim or vixen? Splitting hairs on whether I'd orchestrated the leak from the inside. Paranoia? Or intuition? Marco had vanished after the job. His number dead, but shadows lingered. A black SUV idling too long at the general store, hang-ups on my landline. Spring thawed the ice, and with it came Trent. My brother-in-law, ex. Technically, rolled up in a Tesla Cybertruck that screamed midlife crisis. His startup beard flecked with silver. Claire, he said, stepping onto my porch with hands raised like a supplicant. We need to talk. I eyed the ex by the door.
Casual-like.
About. He glanced around, voice dropping. The swap. I know. My blood turned to slush.
Trent.
The tech bro who'd always played neutral. Sipping IPAs at family barbecues while Victoria sneered. Turns out, he'd hacked the clinic's logs, curiosity killing the cat. Or greed feeding it. Nanotech signatures. Neural echoes, he babbled, pulling a tablet from his man purse. You were in her, weren't you? For 3 days. I denied it. Stone-faced. But he pressed, eyes alight with that valley gleam. Look, the family's imploding. Dad's bankrupt, Mom's
Gone.
Ethan's a mess. But there's a way out for all of us. His pitch, a counter-narrative. Fund a docuseries, The Harrington Reckoning, whitewashing the sins. Positioning me as the plucky survivor who inspired Victoria's breakdown. Payday? 7 figures, plus equity in his AI firm. We rewrite the story.
Claire.
You get vindicated. We get redemption. It was tempting. The cabin leaked. My savings were fumes. But trust a Harrington? That's like handing matches to an arsonist. I played along, inviting him in for coffee laced with suspicion. Over chipped mugs. He spilled more. Victoria's retreats weren't just vanity trips. The clinic? A front for elite augmentations, neural implants for enhanced cognition, black market swaps for the terminally bored. She'd been experimenting, chasing immortality in silicon veins. She wanted to be you, Trent admitted, voice cracking.
Young.
Unscarred. Said you had fire she envied. The irony burned. All those exclusions. And deep down, the viper coveted my skin. By dusk, I decided. Not partnership, payback. Round 2. I slipped a thumb drive into his jacket pocket while he pissed, cloned from Marco's archives. Loaded with clinic manifests tying Trent's startup to the nanotech ring. Think about it, I said, walking him out. He nodded, oblivious, rumbling away into the twilight. The leak dropped a week later, anonymous as before. Tech Air linked to illegal biohacking. Bloomberg ate it up. Trent's board ousted him overnight, his Cybertruck repoed by dawn. I watched from my rocker, lake mist curling like smoke signals. Was it justice? Or just kicking a man while he bled? The line blurred. But the thrill? Undimmed. Summer brought heat waves and hauntings. Ethan surfaced via email, desperate. Drunk dial vibes. I was blind.
Claire.
Mom poisoned us all. Come to Costa Rica. We can start over. Attached, a selfie. Shirtless on a beach. Eyes hollow as crab shells. I deleted it, but the pull tugged. Love's a stubborn weed, choking through concrete. Instead, I dove into Tommy's appeal, hiring a pro bono shark from the Innocence Project. Hearings dragged, motions, depositions, but by July 4th, fireworks popping like gunfire. The judge ruled, new trial granted. Tommy walked free on bond, a gaunt specter blinking into sunlight. We met at a diner off Route 9, burgers and shakes like old times. You look good, kid, he lied, eyeing my calluses. I told him everything, the swap, the secrets, the serum scar tissue still prickling my temples. He listened, nodding slow. Revenge is a mirror.
Claire.
Shows you the monster you could have been. His words stuck. A pebble in my boot. Was I avenging him? Or exorcising my own demons? Fall circled back. Leaves flaming out in defiant glory. Victoria's case hit trial. Fraud. Conspiracy. The yacht murder pinned square on her. Richard turned state's evidence, trading testimony for a slap on the wrist. The courtroom sketches went viral. Her in orange, hair limp, that imperious chin finally tucked. I testified remotely, voice steady over Zoom, recounting the frame job with clinical detachment. The prosecutor nodded. The defense sneered. Vindictive X, they called me. Jurors? They saw a woman scorned rising from ashes. But the Real bomb dropped post-verdict, guilty on all counts. Life without parole. In her holding cell, Victoria scrawled a letter, smuggled out via a guard, landing on my doorstep like a curse. You think you won? I made you.
Claire.
That swap? My design. I chose you to wear my sins. To taint your soul. Bullshit. I thought, torching it in the fire pit. But doubt wormed in. Marco's number rang once that night. Collect from an unknown. I didn't pick up. Winter gripped hard, snow blanketing the lake in hush. Tommy settled in a VA home downstate, courting emphysema with Pall Malls.
Ethan?
Radio silence, until a tabloid blind item. Disgraced scion washes up in rehab. Good riddance.
Me?
I started writing memoir scraps. Revenge porn for the literati. Agents sniffed, offering deals with NDAs. Make it controversial, they urged. The body swap bombshell. I demurred. Some stories aren't for sale. They're for surviving. Yet in the dead of night, when the wind howls like Victoria's laugh, I wonder, did I destroy them? Or did they remake me? The mirror shows Claire Riley fiercer, fractured, but whose eyes stare back? Hers or mine? The book deal landed like a sucker punch. 6 figures from a Knopf editor who gushed about raw Americana grit. Think Gone Girl meets The Firm, she emailed, CCing her boss. I signed in a Manhattan cafe, the kind with overpriced lattes and whispers of deals being born. Back in the cabin by spring thaw, the manuscript poured out, fingers flying over keys, dredging the muck. I called it Skin Deep, a swap for the soul. But my agent rebranded, Exiled Heiress, my mother-in-law's body, and the family that broke me. Clickbait gold. Divisive as a political tweet. Writing it was catharsis, laced with cyanide. Chapters on the exclusions hit hardest the Sunday staring at my phone. Ethan's texts a lifeline. Miss you.
Babe.
Mom's asking about the pie recipe.
Lies.
All of it. I'd recreate the dinners in prose, the clink of silver, Victoria's dissective gaze over the osso buco, her quips about upward mobility slicing deeper than the blade. Then the swap, eviscerated in visceral detail, the neural fire, her memories bleeding into mine like ink in water. Uncle Tommy's arc, the emotional core, his release a Pyrrhic victory shadowed by lung cancer's creep. Controversy brewed pre-pub. Advance copies leaked, podcasters pounced. Did Claire fabricate the body swap for clout? One screeched. Guests debating if it was allegory or acid trip. Feminists hailed me as a takedown of patriarchal in-laws. Conservatives decried it as anti-family screed.
Sales spiked.
By release week, I was on a red-eye to LA for the Ellen reboot, nerves jangling. Wardrobe a thrift store power suit. The green room smelled like spray tan and anxiety. Ellen warm. Wicked eased me in. Claire, you lived every woman's revenge fantasy. How's it feel? I leaned into the mic, voice steady, like scratching an itch that went septic. Necessary. But it leaves scars. We laughed. The audience cooed. Then the pivot. But the twist, your uncle's complicity. Did that sour the revenge? I paused. The cabin's isolation flashing. It humanized it. No one's pure villain or victim. That's the American way, messy as a backroad barbecue.
Post-show.
The backlash bit. Victoria's lawyers sued for defamation, claiming the swap was libelous fiction. Paparazzi swarmed the cabin, drones buzzing like hornets. I lawyered up with the advance, countersuing for the frame job's emotional distress. Court TV ate it up, Harrington widow versus ex-daughter-in-law, battle of the body snatchers.
Trent testified.
Clean-shaven and contrite, admitting his biohacking ties but swearing I'd manipulated the leaks. She's ruthless, he said, eyes pleading off camera. Ruthless. The word echoed Victoria's. Ethan crashed the circus via video depot. Tanned but twitchy from rehab. Claire's the real Harrington, he slurred. Half apology. Half accusation. She wore Mom like a second skin, better than any of us. The judge sustained objections. I stifled a laugh. Better? Maybe. But at what cost? Summer tour blurred into a fever dream. Book signings in Boise where housewives pressed dog-eared copies. Whispering, Maya Miles the same. Panels in D.C. where Beltway hacks probed for insider dirt. Fatigue set in, migraines pulsing like the serum's ghost. One night in a Chicago Hilton. Post-reading. A knock. Room service? No, Marco. Grizzled as ever. Nursing a flask. Miss me? Riley. He'd resurfaced. Dodging feds after the clinic bust. Victoria? She commissioned the prototype. Wanted a test run, borrow a rival's edge for a merger pitch. My stomach flipped. Me? Why? Marco shrugged. You were expendable. But she underestimated the fire.
Fire.
The word again. I poured us whiskeys, the city lights smearing like regrets. He spilled. The swap wasn't random. Victoria had eyed me for months. Jealous of my untapped potential. The exclusions? A slow poison to break me. Make the transfer clean. Betrayal's second wave drowned me. All those snubs. The frame, grooming me for her soul suck. I raged into the dawn. Marco slipping away like smoke. The book climbed bestsellers, Netflix optioned rights. But victory tasted like ash. Fall brought Tommy's chemo, his frame shrinking like a deflating balloon. I drove down monthly. The I-87 a ribbon of resolve. Proud of you. Kid, he'd wheeze. For dripping. Stirred the hornets. One visit. He confessed the full rot. The yacht payout had funded my college, anonymous scholarship, Harrington strings attached. They owned us.
Claire.
But you cut the cords. Tears stung. I held his hand, papery as onion skin. Thanksgiving loomed. My first solo. No dinners. No exclusions, just turkey for one. Lake view eternal. But the news pinged. Victoria's appeal denied. Her cellmate, a cartel widow spilling tales of the Ice Queen's breakdowns, raving about Claire in my veins. Schadenfreude? Or sorrow? I raised a glass to the void. Winter's grip tightened. The cabin creaked under snow's weight. Promo died down, leaving echo chamber silence. Then, a package unmarked, postmarked Belize. Inside, Ethan's signet ring. Engraved Forever Harrington. Note, I get it now. The swap showed me her us. Forgive. I pawned it. The cash buying Tommy's experimental treatment. Forgiveness? A luxury for the unbroken. Spring bloomed bloody. Tommy slipped away in April. Quiet as a sigh. Funeral was small, dockside. Ashes scattered where we'd fished. Eulogy short. He bore sins not his own. Rest easy. Uncle. Mourners few. Reporters sniffed but stayed back. That night. Bonfire blazing. I burned the manuscript's last draft, symbolic purge. But the haunt persisted. Dreams of Victoria's eyes in my mirror. Whispering, join me. Migraines worsened. Scans showed anomalous neural scarring. Doc's code for swap residue. Was I unraveling her legacy? Or weaving it into mine? Summer sizzled with summons. Victoria's final play. A jailhouse while contesting the estate crumbs to expose the imposter. Hearing in White Plains. Me in witness box. Her via video gaunt. Ghoulish. She stole my life. Victoria hissed, finger jabbing screen. Lived it better. The judge rolled eyes, case tossed. But her words lodged like buckshot. Post-hearing. A tail black sedan. Tinted menace. Paranoia peaked. I bolted the doors. Shotgun loaded. Turns out. Richard, free but broke, sending emissaries to settle scores. I confronted him at a neutral Starbucks. His once impeccable suit rumpled. You ruined us, he spat. For what? A dead sailor's grudge. I leaned in, voice low, for the family you forgot existed. He deflated, signing over the last Harrington shares, penny stock now. Take it. Burn it. I did. Metaphorically donating to victims' funds, Tommy's name on the plaque. Fall leaves fell like indictments. Book's sequel pitched, I declined. One revenge per lifetime, I quipped. Truth? Exhaustion. The swap had hollowed me, Claire the Avenger. But who beneath? Winter whispered endings. News of Ethan's overdose. Accidental. They said, hit like frostbite. No tears, just a quiet toast to what-ifs. Victoria? Died in custody. Natural causes. Autopsy sealed. Rumors of suicide. Cabin empty now.
Echoes loud.
I pack boxes, new start. Maybe Portland. Rain-soaked anonymity. Mirror shows scars. Laugh lines mine. Eyes. A hybrid haunt. Revenge won. But the cost? A soul stitched from strangers. Was it worth it? Ask the reader. Heroine or horror? That's the American debate. Winners write history. Losers haunt it. Portland welcomed me with drizzle and dive bars. A far cry from Connecticut's polished chill. I rented a bungalow in Selwood, ferny yard. Creaky porch. Neighbors who waved without prying. East Coast transplant, the barista at Kawava asked, steaming my oat milk latte. Yeah, I said, running from ghosts. She laughed, I didn't. The move was flight, not freedom, rebranding Claire Riley as a freelance editor. Ghosting memoirs for midlisters scared of their own shadows. Days blurred into routine, mornings hiking Forest Park, mud sucking at boots like old regrets, afternoons at the desk, red penning tales of lesser betrayals. Nights, whiskey neat, vinyl spinning Dylan, blood on the tracks, the sound of splintered vows. The cabin sold quick, proceeds padding a modest nest egg. Tommy's fund grew, scholarships in his name sent Queen's kids to college, cutting the Harrington cord one tuition at a time. But the residue lingered. Migraine struck like lightning, seizure-light episodes where Victoria's voice echoed, boardroom barbs. Ethan's lullabies. Neurologist in Vancouver. WA, closest specialist, poked and prodded. Idiopathic neuralgia. Stress-related. I nodded, lying through teeth. Truth? The swap's echo. A digital poltergeist. Pills dulled it. Therapy unpacked it. You internalized the antagonist, my shrink drawled. All flannel and Freud. Wore her hate like a hair shirt. Sessions ended with homework. Forgive yourself first. Forgiveness? A foreign tongue. I tried journaling rants. Bonfires for unsent letters. To Ethan, you chose them over us, I chose me. To Victoria, your envy was your cage. I broke free. To Tommy, sorry I mythologized you. Ashes swirled skyward. Portland's evergray skies swallowing secrets. Summer brought blooms and buzz. The Netflix adaptation greenlit, swapped vengeance. Starring a Oscar bait ingenue as me. Meryl Streep channeling ice for Victoria. Premiere invite landed. Gold embossed taunt. I RSVP'd no. But watch the trailer on YouTube. Dramatic swells. My hook lines intoned with gravitas. Comments exploded. Empowering AF versus toxic revenge porn glorifies mental illness. The divide thrilled and tired me. Controversy cash checks. Mine bought a kayak. Paddling the Willamette at dawn. Herons stalking shallows. I felt glimpses of peace. Locals folded me in, potlucks with craft brews. Trivia nights where I crushed pop culture. Fell for a guy once. Jake. A brewer with tattooed forearms and a laugh like summer thunder. Dates blurred into weekends, hikes to Multnomah Falls. His hand warm in mine. What's your story, he'd ask. Post-coital glow. I'd spin half-truths. Bad divorce. Family drama. The swap? Buried deeper than bodies. But ghosts gate crash. Jake's ex was a podcaster, unsolved empires, obsessed with the Harringtons. Over tacos, one night. She cornered me. Claire Riley? No shit. Eyes wide. Phone out. The body swap, was it real? Spill. Jake shifted. Awkward. I smiled brittle. Fiction's funnier. But the seed sprouted doubt. Nights after. He'd probe gentle. You okay? Seemed distant. I was. Victoria's whisper warning they'll leave too. Broke it clean over IPA. Too many skeletons. He nodded. Hurt flickering. Another scar. Fall rains hammered. Isolation suited. Book 2 gestated, not sequel. But pivot. Echoes in the flesh. Essays on identity theft. Literal and lit. Agent loved. Provocative.
Claire.
Lean into the ambiguity. Ambiguity was my armor. Had the swap happened? Or was it metaphor for assimilation's theft? Readers debated in arcs. I dodged. Thanksgiving solo again. Gourmet TV dinner. Netflix queue. Then the call. Richard Harrington. Voice reedy as wind through cracks.
Claire. Can we talk?
From a hospice in Boca. Pancreatic whisper. I almost hung up. Why? He coughed wet. End of the line. Need to clear the air. Against better angels. I flew, red-eye, to Florida. Humidity slapping like judgment. His room overlooked Intercoastal. Ivy's beeping dirge. Frielier than sin. Eyes milky. You won, he croaked. No preamble. Empire dust. But the yacht. Victoria didn't orchestrate. It was me. Bomb 2. Tommy knew. We cut him in. The stiff was my guilt. Couldn't pay after the crash hit. My fists clenched sheets. And framing me? Richard winced. Her idea. To protect Ethan. Thought you'd fold. I laughed ugly. Stronger than your blood. He pressed a USB, final ledger. Absolving Tommy fully. For what it's worth. Sorry, don't cut it. Worth? Pennies. But I took it. Flying back with closure's weight. Tommy's record expunged posthumously. Fund doubled. Richard died a week later. Obit buried in business section. Winter solstice. Portland's lights twinkling defiant. I hosted a stranger's dinner. Neighbors. Misfits like me. Turkey brined. Stories swapped. No exclusions. Just belonging. Earned. But the mirror lied. One storm last night. Migraine peak. Vision fractured. In the glass. Not Claire. But hybrid. My freckles on her bone structure. Eyes swirling blue-brown. We're the same, she-they whispered. I smashed it. Shards glittering like truth's confetti. Spring verdant. Renewals tease. Netflix dropped. Reviews raved. Twisty. Tense. A revenge anthem for the Me Too era. Box office boomed. I cashed residual. Anonymous donor to women's shelters. Yet the pull persisted. A letter from Ethan's estate. Probate scraps. A note. You are the best of us. Keep the fire. Fire again. I kept the ring this time. Talisman or curse. Summer solstice bonfire on the beach. Driftwood crackling. Waves chanting. Friends toasted. I sipped.
Silent.
The swap scar itched, but softer. Revenge? A chapter closed? Or just intermission? Debate rages in fan theories. Was Claire possessed? Or evolved? Heroic vigilante or vengeful virus? I smile. Ambiguous. That's the power, letting them argue while I paddle on. The years blurred like rain on a windshield, Portland's drizzle turning to Seattle's downpour when I chased a whim north. Editing gig at a lit mag folding under .com ghosts. Mid-40s hit sneaky, crow's feet etching laugh lines into worry tracks. Hair silvering at the temples like frost on forgotten fences. The swap's echo faded to a murmur. Migraines managed with yoga and weed gummies. But the questions? They amplified, bouncing in empty rooms like pinballs. I'd become a footnote in true crime lore, a panelist at CrimeCon. Voice of reason on Dateline reboots. Claire Riley, the woman who wore her mother-in-law's skin. Headlines recycled. Evergreen clickbait. Fans mailed fanfic. Twistiest swaps. Gorier ends. Haters? Dox my P.O. box with hate scrawls. You killed a family for clout. You queen's cunt.
Cunt.
Victoria's favorite Barb. Resurrected. Love revisited in flings. Bar hookups with baristas. A summer with a poet who quoted Plath over Pinot. You're a storm, he'd murmur, tracing my scars. Storms pass, he ghosted for grad school. Celibacy suited, self-love's a quieter revenge. Reclaiming the body they tried to break. Tommy's fund thrived. A quiet empire. 20 kids graduated. First a girl from my old hood. Valedictorian shout-out. For Uncle T and the aunt who fought. Tears then. Hot and unbidden. Legacy's the real payback. Outlasting grudges. But the final twist slithered in autumn. Leaves gold as fool's pyrite. A documentary crew, indie outfit. Sundance dreams, tracked me to a cafe. Mike's hidden in man buns. Claire. Off record. The swap. Real or ruse? Lead director. All earnest eyes. I sipped Americano.
Stalling.
Does it matter? Truth subjective in America? Pick your poison. They persisted. Airing anyway. Swapped secrets, the untold Harrington tapes. Premiered at Tribeca. Viral overnight. Bombshell? Marco's suicide note. Leaked via Hacker Collective, confessing Victoria's mastermind role. But adding, I'd known. Pre-swap meet. I'd pitched her the idea. Desperate for trading outsider status for a seat at the table. Bullshit. Or was it? Memory flickered. A drunken voicemail to her burner. Post-exclusion rage. Let me prove I belong. Name your price. Gaslight or glitch. The film spun its sinister eye. The infiltrator. Seducing the swap to steal secrets. Forums ignited. Claire was the villain all along, versus. Gaslighting gold. Victoria's last con. Netflix stock dipped. My residuals dried. Agent dropped me. Too toxic.
Babe.
Isolation's old friend returned. Colder now. I retreated to the bungalow. Blinds drawn. Radio droning NPR scandals.
Nights.
The hybrid eyes in shards. Wait. I'd replaced the mirror. But the gaze persisted. Was I the betrayer? Had desperation birthed the deal? Buried in blackouts? Climax crashed Christmas Eve. Black SUV outside. Engine idling like threat. Door bursts, not feds. But Trent, gaunt as a specter, wild-eyed. You leak my files, he snarled, waving a printout. No, the dock crew had twisted his hacks into my plot. He lunged, I dodged, grabbing the poker. Trent, it's lies. Struggle blurred, his fist grazed my cheek. Fire bloom. I swung. He crumpled, blood-welling temple. Sirens wailed. Cuffs clicked. Interrogation room. Stark. Coffee stale. Self-defense. The DA ruled quick, his prints on the aggression. But the headlines? Revenge Queen strikes again. Ex-Harrington heir assaulted. Trial skipped. Plead as psych eval. Shrink testified. PTSD from trauma. Not malice. Released to house arrest. Ankle monitor chafing like shackles. Trent, coma brief. Then charges dropped, mutual accident. He vanished. Silicon Valley swallowing sins. Spring thawed cuffs, summer scorched outs. I sold the bungalow. Cashed out. Vanished to Baja, cabana on the Sea of Cortez. Waves lapping absolutions. No name. No past, just Claire. Or whoever emerged. Years later, from a hammock strung between palms, I scroll the net on satellite Wi-Fi. The doc. Oscar nod for editing. Tommy's fund? $1 million milestone. Victoria's grave? Vandalized with swapped bitch. Ending? No tidy bow. Happy? In sunsets and solitude. Maybe. Tragic? If you count the soul swap splinter. Debate rages. Was I pawn? Player? Or both? The mirror, cracked but clear, shows a woman forged in fire. Unapologetic. Revenge isn't closure, it's evolution. I belonged nowhere until I carved my own table. Pass the salt, families served.